Hey guys, welcome to the next level. Welcome back to Psychopath Theater. I know it's been a bit, and believe it or not, we've had a lot of trouble recording a new episode for you guys. So with me today is my good cartoonist friend, Jack Brady.
Hiya, I'm Jack, and I'm the second psychopath taking part in this.
Yeah, second, not a whole lot of people could be here for this. The reason for that is because we already recorded a Psychopath Theater. I'm not going to say what on because you guys will get that soon enough. But I also really wanted to have an episode out for this week because, let's face it, it's been a long time. And I kind of want to experiment with the Psychopath Theater's format to kind of see what I can do to get around copyright. So here is the original Universal horror film, Dracula. Not technically the first one, but it's kind of the one they always consider to be the first one. We can talk more about that in a bit.
Is this a joke? You told me we were going to watch Nosferatu. I'm not watching this trash.
You know how bored my other friends would get, like, if we started... Okay, I'm going to start the movie, though. You know how mad or bored they'd get with Nosferatu? Like, it's a very dry movie. Like, I cannot imagine them sitting through it.
Well, I mean, we've already been spoiled with the ending on who was flickering the lights, so, like...
Nosferatu!
Kinda hard to appreciate the movie as a whole.
Yeah, no, there's some silent movies that even I have trouble watching. Like, I have fallen asleep through The Lost World more times than anyone else, I think. So why don't we start by actually talking about this movie? Jack, when was the first time you saw this film?
I was probably, like, in kindergarten, like, 5 years old, actually. I remember, my brothers and I got it from our local library, and I remember being fairly scared by it for sure. Big horror buffs as kids. Love getting scared, all that.
Well, before I'm going to name a little bit of trivia that I think everybody knows. That's Carla Lamille, daughter of the CEO of Universal at the time, obviously. And for the longest time, she was the last living member of this cast.
Wasn't she in Phantom of the Opera as well?
If not her, one of her sisters, because I know they got like all the Lemleys in different projects. I think you're right, though. I think it was her. The thing about these movies to me is that they're so old that, like, everyone in these movies, like the actors themselves, these people are so disconnected from modern society because these people are well old enough to be our great 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 grandparents, but they were also some of the very first people to be able to be filmed.
Well, I always thought it was kind of eerie watching old movies, knowing that everybody involved has passed away. And, like, I know this is 1931, but Nosferatu, 1922, that's the year my grandfather was born. So that's just, it's super weird to think about.
Oh, exactly. I mean, and the thing about film production at that point is that so little about it is known compared to like what we know today because no one was ever thinking about DVD bonus features.
Yeah, like, I can picture, like, when this came out in 1931, it's almost like okay, kind of like a Broadway show comes and goes. It's like they weren't thinking about preserving film or if anybody would still care about this movie almost 100 years later.
Oh yeah. And I think that would have stayed if they didn't randomly try to release the 1930 this film and Frankenstein again in 1938. I think history would have been really different, and there's a chance we would not have this film anymore if they didn't do that.
Well, like, think about how much popular culture would be different, like even like Halloween and monsters and all that.
When I was a kid, I I got into these because of James Rolfe and Monster Madness. I don't
Oh.
think that's a surprise for somebody my age. I kept trying to find it, and the thing about these old films is that they're so old, um, that in the 2000s, 2010s, they did not want to put them on TV anymore. Like, the only channel that would have anything like this would be Turner Classic Movies. So I would spend so much of my like preteen life just randomly searching on the PVR for any of the big Monster Madness movies that I wanted to see. Looked up Godzilla like every week, and it would always be the 1998 one, and I would die a little inside every time.
Ah, yes, the Simpsons one, of course.
I would look up
But
Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, King Kong, like any of those. It got to the point where I actually had to beg my family to order me the DVDs on Amazon because there was just no way of tracking them down. And I looked in stores, they didn't have them. And now that I'm an adult and I can easily order things online myself, now I start to see them all over Best Buy and stuff. And I'm thinking that's not fair.
I feel like the 2000s was like that weird point in time where it was like appreciation for these classics was at a low, but you could like really thank Monster Madness for help reviving that.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I grew up in the age of kids that didn't even know what a Sega Genesis was.
Oh, and there's the man himself. It's Count Chocula. Fella.
If you guys heard that, I'm sorry. That is a video thing that's going on in the background. I forgot about that.
So there is Christopher Lee. He is going up the stairs, and he's got all sorts of women because he's the pimp of the undead.
Yeah, so Jack is actually watching a completely different movie. We're just pretending that we're watching the same Universal film. No, but
I have them both on side by side. I have two screens. I'm trying to see how accurate they are to one another.
it's one of my favorite like fun facts from like a Cinemassacre video too. And yes, this video is going to be talking a lot about Cinemassacre because to me, Universal Horror and James Rolfe are kind of synonymous with each other.
I
But
think people watching this channel have likely have watched Cinemassacre.
I would assume so, but like then I'm gonna get the comment. It's like, what's Cinemassacre? Like, what are you guys talking about? And it's gonna be like, oh my god.
No.
Um,
Look at how cool the fog is in this scene.
oh, it's great. And I mean, did you watch this the first time on like VHS or DVD or like
VHS.
yeah, so you wouldn't have seen anything close to this quality on a VHS copy.
Oh, this looks so crisp. Like you can like being able to appreciate the movie as like it would have looked in 35 millimeter film, and seeing like all the contrast in black and white.
Oh yeah, like
Uh,
my first copy of this movie was the 1998 DVD of it. You know, like it was probably better than the library VHS you saw, but like night and day. And I actually, this isn't even my best copy of the film because I actually own the 4K release that they did like last year, and that looks phenomenal. It's crazy seeing a movie that's more than 90 years old that good. And I think it's the
well,
oldest movie on 4K. I think.
well, we're at the point where digital tech can finally replicate 35 mil.
Oh yeah, and then we also out of the Dark Ages where they were trying to remove grain and stuff from picture.
Yeah, don't do that. I just want to quickly ask, have you ever seen the Spanish version of this movie?
I keep meaning to because me and my friends are supposed to like do a night where we watch this one and then immediately watch the Spanish version after, but something has always happened to stop that. Yeah, we'll talk about the Spanish one a little bit later because I do want to talk about that. Just the fact that that exists is crazy, but we can't talk about that right now. By the way, I have Castlevania music playing in my head like right now because I've been playing so much Castlevania lately that I'm like, all right, are you gonna whip him or what? Are you gonna do the holy water strat that I like abuse?
I wonder if those cobwebs are real there.
Yeah, I mean,
Like this is clearly a huge set, but like just look, the atmosphere is phenomenal here.
actually, apparently, there's a lot more of the set that they built that they didn't even end up using in the final film. There's a significant portion of an ending scene that was cut from the final film that I'd like to talk about later too. Can we also just give a little bit of appreciation for Dwight Fry? He's like in this film, he's in Dracula, or sorry, he's in Frankenstein, and then he's in Bride of Frankenstein. In all those movies, he plays like basically the same kind of character, and he's just great in them. Like I totally believe that spoiler alert, he goes psychotic. Realize that there's a good chance that a lot of people watching this just to help me out have no idea anything about this. I mean, there's a chance they've seen the Cinemassacre video, but there's a good chance they haven't actually seen the movie.
I think you're totally right. I did go through a phase where I binged a ton of Monster Madness before I actually watched the movies. Like last October, my brother and I bought the Universal Classic collection and binged them all. Well, except for the 1940 Phantom of the Opera, because screw that.
I tried watching that. They put that on every one of these compilations, like the Universal horror sets, and I don't know anybody that thinks that's the better Phantom of the Opera movie. And I know why they don't release the 25 version. Like, it's because it's public domain and they don't want people just like buying the set and then releasing the public domain movie. It doesn't even feel like it fits because it's the only one of these movies that's in color. Like, it doesn't. It feels like they're just like, oh, well, we own the rights to it. We might as well do it.
Yeah, freaking yeah. It's like if you buy like a compilation like Sonic Mega Collection and they throw some junk in that nobody's gonna watch or play.
The
But
ooze. The ooze. Wait, what? I
what one thing I do like about this in Frankenstein is how quiet it is, because it's like this was before like a lot of movies were expected to have a soundtrack, since this is the one of the earliest talkie movies. But
Oh yeah.
have you ever?
There's a little thing I've read where people thought that if you played music in a film and there was no like on-screen instrument to play the music, people would get confused. And I'm thinking, oh man, the simpletons of the 20th century must have just been like you're already.
Have you ever seen this movie with the music done by Philip Glass?
Yes, I have. I don't prefer watching it with that, if I'm being honest.
I've watched a few clips of it. Like I think in this scene in particular, I think it's like very smooth violins, and I think it does add a bit. But in a lot of other scenes, it's the music doesn't really fit. It's too overbearing.
It's just my opinion that I don't think it fits too well. Um,
It's a cool experiment, but like, yeah, stick to the original.
and speaking of this film, it's just amazing how like Lugosi has such a great on-screen atmosphere to him. I don't even know where to begin with like explaining how great Lugosi is and how even the worst films that he was in are made worth watching just for him. I have not seen one Lugosi film where he did not at least make the film worth watching to me.
Well, I think his best performance is in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Like that,
Uh,
he plays Dracula so straight in such a funny movie like that.
have you ever seen Island of Lost Souls from 32?
I have not, I'm afraid.
That is a real like Lugosi is only
Oh,
in like 5 minutes of that film. Oh yeah, we got some.
uh-oh.
I wonder if that was actually blood, like they actually forced him to like prick himself, or if that's just like paint or like whatever that is. Like it could
Maybe
just
it's
be like a
like
drop of wine. Like, it could be anything.
Ni- Ni- maybe it's Night of the Living Dead where it's chocolate. Dracula does not like the crucifix.
Yeah, it's just a glass of like chocolate Nesquik.
Yeah. I think in the book they indicate that the vampire Dracula is Vlad the Impaler, who like sold his soul to Satan for like immortal life, and that's how he becomes a vampire.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I have not read it. I only know trivia,
Uh,
probably from James Rolfe.
yeah, like I was gonna say before, and I got distracted. One of the most famous things I remember them talking about is in their Castlevania 4 video. Not the retrospective, but like the Let's Play they did.
Yeah.
Um, if they were talking about how one of the first things Dracula says, not the first thing, but one of the first, is would you would you like to have the toilet or something like that? And I always imagine that in Lugosi's voice. Like, would
Would
you?
you like to use the toilet, Mr. Renfield?
'Cause the reason I remember that is because that's like right before like a long gag about how people in these films always offer like brandy to these people that have been traveling for hours on hours, and they most likely have to like go to the bathroom like really bad,
The
or
bathroom is that way.
they want
Oh,
water. See, Resident Evil 8, I think it's 8, made it popular to be well dominated by vampire women. This is like this just shows
oh
how
boy.
progressive Dracula was. I can't even finish that.
Oh my.
I like how it's not even the girls that like do it. It's just like some random bat that like shows up and scares them. Well, it's supposed to be Dracula, I think, but he kind of,
He's
but
gonna
like,
get sucked.
and it begins. I like how like Lugosi's just like begone thoughts.
But all the talk of the book, it reminds me of how there's a bookstore near my office, and they do have a hardcover graphic novel of Dracula from like the 60s, and it has a foreword by Christopher Lee. I wonder if I should just shell it out and buy it after this.
Oh, how much do they want for it? Do you know?
I think it's like $40. That's what kept me from making the plunge.
Well, that's fair. $40 is kind of
Yep. And
that's an
now,
investment. Like, that's
yeah.
And now it is time for Bram Stoker's Dracula. Aboard the Vista, bound
uh,
for England.
I'm gonna actually just hop in here just to say that this is actually silent footage that they stole from another movie that was released a few years beforehand. I cannot name that movie right now because honestly it's not interesting, but you can kind of tell that is like silent footage because it's all sped up and it's not. If you look at the human movement, it's clearly not at like
Look
normal
like
speed.
16 frames a
Well,
second,
you
sped
can
up
see it.
24. Yeah.
It
And
looks
now
like.
Renfield is crazy.
But then again, somebody in 1931 would not notice that because it was a miracle that he was seeing moving pictures in the first place.
What's funny about it, this part in Nosferatu, they used a day for night shot, but tinted it blue.
Yeah,
But
silent films did that for a while, and then I guess they just stopped doing that because I think people just didn't like it that much, or like the effect wasn't.
it wasn't convincing, especially since at the end of that movie, spoiler alert, Nosferatu's killed by the sun.
This is one of the best scenes in the movie too. This is one of my like favorite like
Oh,
acting.
yep. Yeah, this is the one thing I remember from seeing when I was 6.
Oh, I'm sure it was terrifying when you were 6. I missed out on that opportunity to see it that, but like this is legitimately like creepy, and I love it for that.
Look at his face, dude. He's like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Oh, it's great. Like you don't see acting like that anymore.
Bring back this type of horror, seriously.
You know what's another really good performance is the beginning of The Mummy when Karloff's mummy like comes out of his like tomb for the first time, and the guy who's like examining the ancient spell like sees him and doesn't really he screams.
Look.
Yeah.
Troll, the original troll face.
Yeah, and he he looks he looks at him, he screams for like a second, but then he just goes insane and starts laughing. He goes into a laughing fit, and like that's the last we ever see him. And like apparently like his son is the character that we follow throughout the rest of that movie, and I think they just straight up say, yeah, no, your father's been in the insane asylum for like 10 years. It's like,
Sure love their insane asylums in these early movies.
oh yeah, I mean, if I was alive in the early 20th century, I probably would have been locked up. Yeah, you don't think you'd be able to like survive in a world where a comic strip like crazy cat is like the most popular thing in the world, and then you're like, oh well, here's my thick fox girl or whatever.
Okay, okay. Oh no, Drac. Drac, have some restraint, man, Drac. Get a hold of yourself.
Drac gets canceled on Twitter.
Yeah, like hashtag sack Drac.
Oh, by the way, here's a dead body, so everybody come to see it.
Yeah, freaking Chief Wiggum here is leading the charge. Oh, come on, everybody, gather around, come see.
With this top hat, nobody will suspect I am from Romania.
I cannot take Top Hat seriously.
I think they should come back. Bring back the top hat. Be on top, baby.
You're lucky I just sucked some other person's blood. Otherwise, I would suck your own. I'm going to walk it off first.
No, he's keeping her alive because he honestly has no idea where the fuck he's going.
What is this? Is this what mortals do for entertainment? This is trash.
See, this is not a true theater performance because there'd be at least one person booing.
Throwing stuff.
Probably.
Boo. Hiss. Boo.
You gotta give Drac credit. He has a very dapper look to him.
I think like every actress that was attached to this movie commented about how sexual they found Lugosi. And I mean that not in the sense that he was inappropriate, but like in the sense that they were all attracted to him.
Well, he's very suave. And then you have Nosferatu, who obviously looks like a vampire, and yet he's able to fool Jonathan Harker.
Nosferatu is like the complete 180 from this.
Like if I saw a guy like that in public, I'd be like, "Oh dang, everybody steer clear." Check out these Karens.
It's an early code horror movie. Of course, they were showing off as much as they could, but it's only 1931, so they haven't gotten really brave with it yet. Just watch King Kong or the first Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde sound version.
Nah, just watch Betty Boop cartoons with Cap Calloway. That'll give you all you need.
And what, in this sense, is what you need? Like, what are we implying here?
It's what you need, you degenerate. No, if I suck degenerate...
I like how I'm the degenerate, even though what you just brought up. I know that what that's supposed to be around his neck, but I've never noticed it until now. But that thing around Drac's neck looks a lot like a shine sprite from Super Mario Sunshine, and that's all I'm thinking about right now. I know what it's supposed to be, though.
He got to shine.
Well, wouldn't he be afraid of a shine sprite the most?
Probably. That's what I know. What it's supposed to be. It's clearly meant to be like a pentagram or something like that. But I'm thinking of like Mario fighting Dracula in Super Mario Sunshine, like in the middle of Isle Delfino.
Yeah, I'd like that. No way Miyamoto would let that fly now. So yeah, Dracula, he just was carefully studying the necks, deciding which neck had more blood, and Drac is gonna get what he wants.
Yeah, I like how they describe John, who we haven't met yet in this film. Well, we barely met him.
We saw him. He was that the guy with shoe polish hair.
Well, I'm sorry. John in this film did not leave an impression on me. What a surprise! No, I'm just fucking. Yeah, so he's probably the weakest part of this film. I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
Oh, they swapped his name with Renfield.
Oh, that, and he's just a total loser this entire film.
You gotta watch the Hammer one. What they did with Jonathan Harker in that is pretty fantastic, not gonna lie.
I know, I am well due for my Hammer fix, but honestly, it's the entire reason I have not seen the Hammer films is just because it's impossible to get them all on like one release, or like just be able to figure out like which ones come before each other, because they don't all have like clear names. And you think they would have done like a Hammer Dracula Christopher Lee set, or like, you know, sets like that, but they haven't. They just kind of throw them in goodie bags, and you kind of have to hope that you get the right ones. And because of the nature of them being British horror films, I also have to worry about them even playing the versions I get, even playing on a Region 1 Blu-ray player.
Yeah, even when I binged them on like HBO Max last October, it was such a random pick of movies,
Oh yeah, and
skipping entire ones. Yeah.
we don't even have HBO Max here in Canada, so like
Well, you never know. That's about to close, but
yeah.
I love the bat puppets in this movie.
Again, I think a lot of people have probably seen the Cinemassacre video explaining this whole mess, but there is like a very bad editing at this sequence and a sequence following where he attacks the other girl's neck because they accidentally flip some of the establishing shots between them. So some shots are meant for that scene that are going to be shown for the later scene and vice versa, and that's going to lead to some like questioning continuity. I recommend just watching the Cinemassacre video because it does like a really good job explaining that, and also just pointing out like a major weird oddity about this film: the fact that some of the lights have cardboard.
Cardboard?
Yeah,
The freaking cardboard. Yeah, that's the biggest mystery. Wonder if
well,
that cardboard is still around today.
yeah, Jack. Instead of keeping any of the lead scenes or like any promotional material for this film that we don't have nowadays, they kept the cardboard.
Hey, it's the Great Depression. Cardboard's a valuable resource. We have Hoovervilles made out of this stuff.
It's not even universal, I don't think. But can you imagine like somebody looking at like some cardboard from like their recent shoot of Dracula and like a 35 millimeter copy of London After Midnight and being like, which one should I keep?
The cardboard, see?
He just chucks the 35 millimeter out.
Eating spiders. He looks pretty healthy for a man who's sustained himself on bugs.
I also like how they're posed like comic strip characters.
Yeah, like this freaking mental institution guy. He looks like somebody out of a Pink Panther cartoon.
Pretty much. Fun fact: the Canadian $1 coin we call a loonie here.
A loony.
Yep.
Dang, I'm
And
jealous.
And the $2 coin is called a toonie.
Not like in Australia where they petition to call their currency dollary dues.
Should I just get Manny and Anthony here so we could just all do a Simpsons video where I just sit here and listen to you three go insane on the Simpsons stuff? It's like I can't. I have just found myself in like a Simpsons circle, and there's just no way out of it. I even made Simpsons jokes in my Castlevania video just because I knew that it would make Anthony laugh.
Excellent.
That was exactly what he responded with too when he found out. I hate that you all you Simpsons fans think exactly the same. And I like the show too. I don't know. I guess I just like Family Guy better.
Okay, so now we have this German guy.
Oh. Well, Van Helsing is the true male lead because I refuse to respect John whatsoever.
Well, John is basically a wet
simp.
blanket.
Simp.
He's a simp. He's a wet blanket. He's a cuck, and he is nothing.
See, I was avoiding saying the C word. I was avoiding saying cuck here. But yeah, he totally is. And what's funny is his actor, again, I don't care to know his actual name, was always complaining that this film was beneath him in later interviews. And yet, who the hell knows who he is outside of this movie?
I wonder what else he's in.
I don't know either. I don't think he ever like amounted to much as an actor. Definitely his like most well known performance, and he was just too good for it. So I don't know.
The lamest character in the movie. This guy with the mustache is more interesting than John.
Sorry, it's just that John, like in all the scenes he's in, he's either like basically begging Mina to like let him in on like what's bothering her, or he's being bitchy to other characters,
or just plain second banana.
Yeah, like there's barely any reason for him to be around other than to like complain. And Van Helsing is the true male lead of this film.
Like, I just wanted to say Just noticing how like Renfield is wearing suspenders. He looks like a coked up 80s Wall Street guy.
I don't think the stockbroker changed much in common attire from like the 30s onto the 80s.
Wonder if they wonder if they based Renfield off of a broker. Like they knew one guy on Wall Street who happened to eat spiders due to him working extreme hours.
I mean, it's the 30s. There's weirder things that could have happened.
Well, maybe his actor did method acting, so in real life he ate nothing but spiders to prepare for the role.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he looks well fed. I won't lie. Like,
Not bad for a man who just eats spiders.
not bad for a man in the middle of the Great Depression.
Maybe we're just not being told about how nutritious spiders are. But yeah, as you were saying before, Van Helsing's the star of this.
Oh yeah, he's great in this film. He's also great in the 5 minutes that he's in Frankenstein, and
He's in The Mummy too.
yeah, he's great in The Mummy because he's basically playing the same character in The Mummy.
It's funny, it's like I feel like he should be in The Invisible Man, but instead Clarence the Guardian Angel is the good scientist guy.
Yeah, when we do the Invisible Man commentary, we have to be completely unhinged.
You telling me that's the kind of movie I'd probably direct, and you're not far off. I think Invisible Man's my favorite of the Universal horror movies, even though it's more of a black comedy.
Oh, well, it's great. I mean, we have the screaming woman from Bride. She's hilarious. Um,
Yes.
you have the scene where he's just like scaring some people, and he's going, "Here we go, having nuts and Meg, nuts and Meg, nuts and Meg." There's a scene where he literally throws his bike, the bike he stole at somebody, and like there's like legitimately like suspenseful scenes, like the scene where he's telling the guy who betrayed him exactly how he's gonna die before he pushes him down the he pushes the vehicle, like I'm spoiling, but like pushes the vehicle down the ravine, like right into the so it explodes, and like he breaks every bone in his body before it explodes, and that's such a good scene.
Yeesh, Renfield. You're such a simp. But yeah, Bat Puppets, I do like how in Abbott and Costello they switched to making it animated, and like Walter Lance did it.
Oh yeah, no, that was great.
Oh, there's the cardboard.
Definitely, yeah. It's funny how you don't even notice it while you're watching the movie, and then like he does it anyways. Yeah, see, that's the error I was talking about. She clearly has Wolfbane around her neck that's supposed to protect her, but they don't show him removing it because the scenes involving a girl and the and Dracula have been completely messed up during the editing process.
Oh, this was before CinemaSins was a thing, and it's before people became hypercritical of the tiniest details.
Oh, I've heard like there was like a lot of problems behind the scenes for filming this film. I mean, obviously the first one was obvious. They wanted to get Lon Chaney Sr. to play Dracula for this film after his like wonderful roles as Phantom of the Opera in 1925, The Hunchback, and then of course London After Midnight. But something
By that
happened.
point, he went to MGM.
Well, not just that. He also happened to die in 1930.
Yeah,
So there seemed like there was going to be this point where the entire project was going to be canned. Like they figured that they couldn't do the film without Lon Chaney, so they weren't going to do it. But they tried a couple different actors, and they eventually settled on Lugosi, who was the star of the play version at that time, mostly because he took like a smaller pay than they were going to offer somebody else. So yeah, the only reason this film is the way it is because Lugosi offered to do the movie for less money.
and it gave him a huge career of being typecast.
Well, not just that, but they basically threw him to the wayside as soon as Frankenstein came out, and like that was a huge hit too. So they were like, well, we don't really want to work with Lugosi anymore, so we're gonna let him do like a bunch of like B movie. It's just a really sad story about what happened to Lugosi. I mean, he was one of the most talented actors of his time, and he was just forced to take
He,
crap.
well, at least he did kind of bounce back before his death in Abbott and Costello, I'd say.
Oh yeah, it's a good thing that yeah, Abbott Costello was like the one time that he ever played Dracula again on in film.
He was in a remake of London After Midnight. Is that worth watching?
Uh, I mean, really, most people want to see the original London After Midnight for Lon Chaney's costume in that, and I know that London After Midnight, the 1943, I want to say, is way less interesting because he's more of like a normal looking Dracula type vampire.
Mm.
So I would imagine
Not
not.
the Babadook looking thing. But yeah,
I hope
I got you.
I hope in my lifetime London After Midnight gets found. I really do. I keep thinking
Could
it's gonna
ju-
happen, but
could just be in some archive. You never know.
well, I mean that's what happened with Ngagi. I'm gonna say that for when we do Ngagi, but I have a huge rant about that. But anyhow, let's talk more about Universal horror in general.
Yeah.
So like
Well,
this film was a success, as I think we all know, and Frankenstein was basically I think Frankenstein started like right after this film came out, and they were gonna do it with Lugosi. But based on surviving accounts, based on anybody that's been asked about it,
right.
there's conflicting answers to exactly what happened. Some people say that Lugosi found the script beneath him, and to be completely fair to Lugosi, it was not the same script that Karloff made famous. It was a very hollow performance, like based on all the accounts that we have. Like it was a very soulless creature in comparison. So I could totally understand why he didn't want to do it. The other account is that he looked ridiculous in the planned makeup at that stage because this was before they came up with the wonderful um, Frankenstein makeup. And from the accounts that we have, he looked something like the 1920s Golem.
Oh boy.
So, yeah, I
Yeah,
can
it
kind
wouldn't
of.
really work.
I do believe it's a little bit of column A, column B. I don't think either answer is exactly the right reason, but there's a really good chance it was just kind of both. He looked like
Here we go. Van Helsing being ballsy.
I love the scene just showing how just Van Helsing clearly knowing about Dracula's BS, and Dracula's like, you motherfucker, and he composes himself, and yeah, that's great.
It's on. The gauntlet has been thrown.
Also, this is one of the very few times where a vampire in media is given both his transformation powers. A lot of people don't know this, but vampires are supposed to also be able to transform into werewolves or wolves. And that would have made a Dracula versus Wolfman movie really boring because it would have just been two wolves after each other.
Yeah, it's too bad they didn't do that in Abbott and Costello. We not only get Bat Drac, but also Wolf Drac.
Versus Wolfman. Yeah, that would have been great. Can you
Well,
imagine
it's
the middle of
ironic.
a? Can you imagine in the middle of a fight, Dracula is like this wolf form. He's in the fight, and then just to screw with the wolf man, he turns into a bat randomly and causes him to comically crash into a wall or something.
Well, I'm sure that if they do another big crossover today, they'll do something elaborate like that with CGI.
Are we gonna talk about the Dark Universe?
Oh, the universe that never happened.
Like there's still talk that they're still gonna do it. It's like, yeah, this is why I hate the current trend of cinematic universes in cinema. I hate the idea that a film comes out and it's only really to sell you three other films while you're watching it.
Well, it's like even in this time period in the 30s and 40s, in a way, like all these Universal monster movies were like a universe, but they each still stand on their own.
Well, they didn't make Dracula with the intention of making like a bunch of sequels. They just planned for it to be its one thing. And
I mean,
when Marvel did their cinematic universe, it wasn't planned to be a cinematic universe. They just made a really good Iron Man movie.
when like meanwhile now they make that stupid computer animated Scooby Doo movie, and it's just trying to set up a Hanna Barbera universe. Like what?
Well, Warner Brothers have completely lost their minds at this point.
It's a dumpster fire.
I'm pretty sure I definitely did a video on Space Jam 2. I think I did a video on
Ugh.
Tom and Jerry 2021. Yeah.
Both quality pieces of entertainment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Definitely living in the legacy of Tom and Jerry in 1992.
We're friends to the end.
No,
Ain't you, my friend?
no, that's still the most popular Psychopath Theater episode, and I'm still kind of like jaded about it.
I know. I know. Indeed. Indeed.
Ladies and gentlemen, George Takei.
Oh my. Why are we letting this mental patient hang around our mansion like this?
Because apparently this rich guy really loves to live near an insane asylum. It's really good for real estate value. And murders in your sleep. And obviously the insane asylum also has really good
Uh-oh.
security.
This guy's freaking awesome.
Yeah, he's great. Like Dwight Fry, the actor's name, just it's just wonderful. Like look at that face. You can clearly see that he is going through. He's completely under Dracula's spell. Like it's great.
If you like this, I suggest Dracula's Risen from the Grave. That's a Hammer movie, and in that movie, Dracula gets a cowardly priest under his spell to do his bidding. It's kind of similar. It's a great movie. It's not as over the top kooky as this
Oh,
guy.
I love that. I love that.
Freaking woman fainted at everything back then.
Well, to be fair, it wasn't just women. Like there was that. I mean, they're showing a lot of. I'm trying to like censor my jokes. Like I'm trying not to be. Just
I just wonder, what if Nicolas Cage played the role of this guy?
Nicolas Cage's Renfield, huh?
Yes. I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!
Who would play Van Helsing in a modern Dracula?
Hang on, let me think. Jack Black.
No, no. Oh, you said that just to piss me off.
Morgan Freeman.
Oh, that would be good.
I would watch that a million times, okay?
Who would play Dracula?
Um, uh, hmm.
This is gonna sound like a complete out of left field choice, but just hear me out on this. Okay?
Okay.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, I can see that. I was gonna suggest finding some random Romanian guy, but that works too.
I just think he could do it after like Wolf of Wall Street and stuff like that.
Well, I like him in Shutter Island. Ever seen that?
Mm, I'm not sure. I saw The Revenant.
Oh yeah, that's a pretty good movie.
I remember when that came out, and they're like, "Okay, guys, you kind of have to give him an Oscar at this point because in the last movie he literally fought a bear. What's he gonna do next? Like, just give him
Yeah.
one out of his like safety."
From
I
that, from Wolf of Wall Street to that,
I
Wolf of
just
Wall Street might be the nastiest movie I've ever seen.
oh, but it's great. Like his performance in that is like great. Like I know the film isn't like completely accurate, and there's like some complaints about it, like glamorizing that lifestyle, but I just think that his random outbursts would be a great, like great Dracula. And
Well, especially,
he definitely has the suave charisma to do it too.
well, just think of the scene where Van Helsing opens the cigarette box with the mirror.
Oh yeah, yeah, that would be great. And Morgan Freeman, like, okay, yeah, no, we gotta get this movie made.
Yeah, for frickin', I'll pitch it. Hire me, Hollywood.
We'll make it somehow, no money, and then we'll be like, here, Universal, here's how you do a horror movie, and then we slap him with it. I'm not
If
into losers.
frickin' Harker sucks, man. I feel like they should have instead made Harker super poncy and like really. He'd be like, I say, that's the way that man dresses is rather ghastly.
Just make him Vern from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh my. Mr. Dracula, your outfit sucks.
And then Harker gets thrown off a building.
Now don't you drive me batty, Dracula.
Okay, maybe don't let us make a Dracula remake.
I'll have to reflect on our meeting.
Have you ever seen the Mel Brooks movie, Dracula Dead and Loving It?
No. Is it bad?
No, see the thing is, like, I love Mel Brooks movies. Like, I
Well, yeah,
absolutely
me
do.
too.
But nobody's ever seen that one. I own it too. I should really just, bite the bullet and watch it because I have like a Mel Brooks collection. Blazing Saddles is like one of my favorite films of all time, and obviously I love Young Frankenstein as well.
Well, Blazing Saddles is a masterpiece.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Like one of the
And being
funniest. It's one of the funniest movies ever made, and there's no way I'll ever be able to do a Psychopath theater on that movie.
just made me think of when Mel Brooks guest starred on The Simpsons and Homer tells him, Mel Brooks, your movie Young Frankenstein, it scared the crap out of me. Thank you.
This is the same shot we saw before.
They always have to cut away. They can never show him opening and climbing out of his coffin.
Oh yeah, man, detective skills were really great in the 30s.
Yeah, I will say about this movie, it's like the middle portion definitely is more of a drag.
Yeah, because I mean we've already seen like the death toll in the movie. We don't get I don't think we get another death until the very end.
Well, it's like now it's like largely a bunch of guys in suits sitting around a mansion, and not a scary mansion, a fancy mansion. Like, if I were to pick between this and Frankenstein, I'd pick Frankenstein.
Well, you and everybody else at Universal at the time. Have you
Like this is an important movie, I get it, but I think it's the weakest of like most of the classic Universal horrors.
of the first in every series, I would say so. I've never personally been too crazy about Creature of the Black Lagoon,
I
honestly.
was about to say that I tried watching that, and yeah, that was a chore to sit through.
Um, but like I will say, I'd rather watch Dracula than like a good portion of some of the sequels, like to each of them.
Oh yeah, this isn't. I'm not. This isn't bad. This is more like an example of something where like they weren't fully in their groove yet, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
No, I totally kind of understand that. Like, it's very clearly like an early sound movie.
Like even if you watch Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein back to back, you see how much they made a jump in like the few years between both movies.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Um, I was just meaning that, like, I'd rather watch this than like the House of Dracula and House of Frankenstein movies. And
I haven't even seen those. I don't even think they're worth it.
the worst, in
Worth,
my
worth.
opinion at least, besides them trying to count 43 Phantom of the Opera, because that one does not count. Um, the worst I've seen is actually Son of Frankenstein, or sorry, Son of Dracula. Son of Dracula. That movie
Count
is,
Alucard?
yeah, that movie is just
No.
boring. I don't know. Like, I just, it's like a very obvious like twist, and like I think all the human characters are like irredeemable.
Hmm.
And
Right. It's funny how famous Dracula is, but like the character really got the short end of the stick for all these Universal monster movies.
oh yeah, no, when they were gonna do Dracula's daughter, I think even Lugosi said, "Oh yeah, I'll absolutely do a sequel," and they just didn't want to hire him to do a sequel.
Like it's funny. The irony is that like a vampire, you could put in so many more situations and premises than Frankenstein's monster. And again, like the fact that the only other time that Lugosi played Dracula is in Abbott and Costello, that's actually crazy to think about. And
Yeah,
oh,
I
here we
mean,
go. Confrontation. He's like, back the fuck off, Drac. I'm not afraid of you.
he clearly has Belmont blood in him.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Maybe I edit in some Castlevania music here. I
I feel like I do that joke too much.
will say this movie is superior to the Netflix Castlevania show.
I still haven't seen that. I really should get around to it.
No, it's horrendous. It's cringe.
Oh, we'll see. I always heard good things about it, to be honest.
I could not stand it. It was full. It was so. I could do a video review of that. I could do a video essay on it, on how the plot is broken and all the characters are badly written. But I'm not gonna do that.
Fair.
Check out yeah, Van Helsing. He's not falling for this guy. Sorry, Dracula. I am only into women, so you're not going to work on me.
He's the first straight man he's ever run into.
I'm the only straight man in all of England. That's why I have this crucifix. Because I am the only straight man in all of England. Edit that out.
Yeah, I'm thinking I better just like, I better want to cut to a commercial break and just not explain why here.
Will we see the cardboard again? Harker, listen to me. Listen to me very carefully. You're not a catch, Harker. You're nothing. I'm turned on by undead chicks.
I have seen pictures of like the Spanish Dracula, and by the way, we should probably talk about that. The movie's almost over.
Okay.
um, but like, have you seen the Spanish Dracula?
I did not. That's why I asked you
Oh,
earlier.
okay. So the actress who played Mina in that version, her outfit at this scene is very pre-code, if you get what I mean by that, and I think you do.
Oh dang, I'm jumping to YouTube. I gotta see this.
People be like, "Oh, why didn't you do a Psychopath theater on that?" And I guess we should probably explain. So back in the day, dubbing technology was basically non-existent. So instead of basically dubbing the film with a Spanish, Spanish actors and just recording that, they just remade the movie shot for shot. And the thing about it is that they had some film directors, like the cameramen, would try different effects in the movie. So the movie, from a technical standpoint, is superior to this version because it was filmed after. It would be filmed late at night after the filming for this had ended for the day.
They got to review the dailies for the English one and improve on it.
Well, kind of, but like obviously it was just like they saw what the English cast is doing and they would just try to do it better. The only thing about that version is that it doesn't have Bela Lugosi, and to be completely fair, Bela Lugosi is the reason you watch this movie. That and the cardboard.
Yeah. So yeah, there it is. Yes, yes, at last, the cardboard. I've searched long and wide.
Yeah, the reason there's cardboard in the shots is a very rudimentary a reason to control lighting, and apparently nobody ever noticed it for 80 years.
So James Rolfe did a whole freaking essay on it.
That is one of his better videos, I won't lie. That's the only time
But dang, look at her.
That's the only time a woman has ever looked at him like that. That's because she's planning to murder him.
She's gonna suck him.
Really like how he groans here.
No, please, this is my only chance. What are you doing?
Yeah, I like how pissed off he is too. He like ruined his one chance. Like, I'm just saying, like, you can write a character out of the entire movie and there'd be nothing to be lost. What does that tell you?
It tells me that I kind of wish she became a vampire right here, because then maybe there'd be something. This is like the end to Halloween when Dr. Loomis looks down from the balcony, sees that Mike Myers is gone. Elephant gun?
Like an Elmer Fudd ass looking gun.
For shame, Doc. You can't shoot me using an elephant gun.
Yeah, so if you guys didn't know, all my friends are actually the same person. They just do different voices. Jack is really just Anthony in disguise. He's just not doing his Australian accent right now.
Yeah. I'm not upside down enough to do it. Oh. Got the Drac.
See, that's why I wish that copyright wasn't such a big deal, because, like, I would totally do a commentary on Crocodile Dundee, and I'd be, like, asking, like, the entire commentary would be just, like, a shitpost. I'd be going, like, is this exactly how Australia is, Anthony?
Just flip the movie upside down and do it. Boom.
I've been thinking about doing a video on, like, my favorite films of the 80s. Like, just doing, like, an entire, like, short, like, video about, like, 80s films I really like.
Is Evil Dead 2 on that list? Yes or no?
Not yet, no.
Oh.
It'd mostly be, like, The Breakfast Club or Ferris Bueller, Rocky IV, Back to the Future, obviously.
Yep. Cardboard.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Yeah, cardboard.
Yep.
Stuff like that,
Should be cardboard in the thumbnail for this video.
That's another shot that people think was just misedited.
Like, how far are they from the mansion they stay in? Was Dracula super close to them? That's what I always got the impression of.
Don't you know that everybody builds their mansions right next to abandoned castles and insane asylums? In the middle of London?
This is a super nice place. I'm surprised it's abandoned. This is where Drac puts his foot down.
You ever think the Castlevania director, like the people that made the first Castlevania game, only saw this scene in the movie? So that's why each of the Castlevania games is just filled with stairs and...
Dracula, no dracking. Drac, no dracking. Drac, no dracking.
You forgot the holy water, dude.
Nah, if you brought that on anywhere near Hollywood, the entire place would probably catch fire.
wish they showed him being thrown, like Dracula throwing him.
Dracula just pushed him back.
You're in my way. Get out.
Funny seeing a dramatic chase like this with no music.
Yeah, I will say this ending is pretty weak. Like,
Oh, this is lame as hell. Watch the hammer one.
I think Jack is trying to tell me something.
It's hammer time.
Just every video is gonna end. Every video that Jackson is gonna end with "Watch a Hammer movie."
How are these freaking catacombs doing here? Drac is trapped.
All right, since the movie's about over, I'm gonna quickly mention some deleted scenes that either are known to be lost or scenes that might not be lost, but Universal's kind of holding, like twiddling their thumbs about it. So, according to numerous sources, the end of the film was actually cut a bit because when, spoiler alert, Harker and Mina like go up the stairs and you hear wedding bell music, they were actually supposed to go upstairs, and I think there was supposed to be a wedding scene there, even though that was completely ridiculous, and that's probably why it was cut. The other scene, I'm sure you know that at the beginning of Frankenstein, there's a scene where Van Sloan there basically warns the audience that the film might be too much for them, which is pretty funny for a modern audience today.
Good lord. Hide the woman and children. I think another movie might have had that. Is that what you said?
Actually, Dracula did have it, but it's lost now. There
Because
was
I think Mummy or Frankenstein had a similar thing.
No, Frankenstein has it, but Dracula lost its because so also Dracula's moans here are really funny to listen to. Definitely sounds like he's enjoying it. But the thing about that scene is that it was very similar to the Frankenstein scene where it's like, like don't like it's like, this may be too much for you or whatever, but at the end of the film, Van Sloan there was gonna say basically like, and don't you forget, vampires are real, or something like that, and that really pissed off some religious groups, so they pulled that scene out of the 1938 reissue, and it's never been in a copy of the film since. Now, the thing about it is that in a documentary on the movie from the 90s, there was actually a short clip of that scene. And it looked like it was mostly intact. It was in pretty poor shape, but it looked like it still existed. So there's a chance it's still out there, but for some reason, Universal just won't reimpose it back into the movie. Yeah, we would have had it right before the Universal Pictures thing, and the movie is just starting again, so I'm gonna pause it. Yeah, so that was Dracula, the very first Universal horror monster movie. Not the first made, like I said before. Universal actually did have a little bit of a history of horror movies before this. Hunchback of Notre Dame doesn't really count, but the basically the quote unquote sequel to it, Phantom of the Opera, not a sequel in terms of like plot or anything, but sequel in terms of cast, was done in 25, and that's kind of the very first attempt at a horror movie. Because Carl Laemmle, the owner of Universal, did not like horror movies. His son, Carl Laemmle Jr., who was going to get the business, did. So he kept pushing his father into doing these horror films. And in fact, you may say, oh, well, Dracula is actually the very first Universal sound horror movie. That's not true either, because there is a lost sound version of a lesser known horror movie from Universal called The Cat and the Canary. Or The Cat Creeps. They go under both titles because there's like 3 versions of that movie. One of them is called The Cat Creeps, so I think that's like the 40s version. And then the other 2 are The Cat and the Canary from 1927 and 1930. Funny thing about The Cat and the Canary, Same thing happened here, where there was a Spanish version and an English version, and as far as I know, both versions of that are lost. I think there's some audio from the English version that exists or something, but other than that, it's completely lost. Outside of a very weird short film that's on all the Frankenstein releases called Boo, which was released in 1932, and for some reason, it not only has Cat and the Canary footage, but it also has Nosferatu footage. Why?
Nosferatu public domain then?
It wasn't even supposed to exist in 1932 because that was well after they were supposed to destroy all copies of it, and why Universal of all studios had footage of it is beyond me. And why they even used it is also beyond me because they had just made a vampire movie that was legal called Dracula.
I guess they liked how the spooky German man looked.
I guess so, but that's kind of like my last minute like trivia for you guys. So I think we'll wrap it up here. Jack, what do you think of the original Dracula from 1931?
So, I have quite a bit of nostalgia for this movie because it's really the first horror movie I've watched, and I still think it's absolutely worth a watch. The atmosphere, especially at the beginning, is fantastic. Lugosi, I can't really say anything that hasn't been said about him already. He's basically the essential vampire. But I will say, like, this movie definitely does drag, like, in the middle, and the end is, like, definitely a letdown, but, but, like, without this, we wouldn't have had all the horror that came after it. So, definitely worth watching at least once if you've never seen it before. It does not suck.
Yeah, and we'll probably end up doing a lot more of these Universal horror films so I can figure out a way to get this out there without Universal biting my head off. And even if I can't release the whole thing, you guys will get it in bite-sized pieces. So I'll figure something out. Anyway, yeah, there may or may not be a 32-bit blue on this movie in this year, so be excited for that. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up there. Boo!
Man, stay off the light speed.
My bad.
You're lucky I just sucked some other person's blood. Otherwise, I would suck your own. I'm going to walk it off first.
Oh, by the way, here's a dead body, so everybody come to see it.
Yeah, freaking Chief Wiggum here is leading the charge. Oh, come on, everybody, get on, come see. How do you do? Check out these Karens.
I'm not into losers.
Freaking Harker sucks, man.
I think that's the problem. I think she caught him sucking.
Oh, Mr. Dracula, your outfit sucks. Now don't you drive me batty, Dracula.
Sorry, Dracula. I am only into women, so you're not going to work on me.
I'm turned on by undead chicks.
That's the only time a woman has ever looked at him like that. That's because she's planning to murder him.
She's gonna suck him.
Yeesh, Renfield. You're such a simp.